Manager thought my job role was unnecessary. He learned the hard way it wasn't. Back in the day, about 20 years ago, I was working as a sales engineer in the technology field. My job was pretty straightforward: support the sales reps by making sure the tech side of things made sense to our clients. I was good at what I did, understood our products inside out, and enjoyed the work. Then, things took a turn when we got a new sales rep manager. His name was Mike, and right from the get-go, I could tell he wasn't a fan of how we did things. Mike came in with a lot of confidence, maybe too much, and it was clear he wanted to shake things up. In our first team meeting, Mike laid out his vision. He talked about streamlining processes and increasing sales, which sounded fine at first. But as he went on, it became obvious that he wasn't too keen on the role of sales engineers like me. He thought we were slowing things down, getting too involved in the sales process. After the meeting, I tried to introduce myself. "Hi, I'm the lead sales engineer here," I said, extending my hand. Mike gave me a quick handshake, barely making eye contact. "Yeah, I've heard about you. Let's see how things go," he replied, in a tone that wasn't exactly friendly. Over the next few weeks, I noticed Mike keeping me and the other sales engineers at arm's length. He'd bypass us in meetings, speaking directly to the sales reps, and when we did get involved, he often questioned our recommendations or suggested we were complicating things. I remember thinking this wasn't going to end well. Mike was new, sure, but he was underestimating the complexity of our products and the value we brought to the table. Sales isn't just about smooth talking. You need to know what you're selling, and that's where we came in. But Mike seemed determined to prove his point. He wanted to show that he could close deals faster and more efficiently without us. That Monday started off like any other. Our new manager, fresh on the job, seemed to be on a mission from day one. He wanted to prove something, though I wasn't quite sure what. That morning, he called a surprise meeting. He announced he'd landed a major opportunity with one of the largest banks in the city. This was big, the kind of deal that gets everyone talking. But something was off. Throughout the meeting, there was no mention of involving the sales engineers. That's my team. We're the ones who usually work out the technical details for such deals. Curious, I approached him after the meeting. "When do we jump in for the technical specifics?" I asked. His response was dismissive. "Don't worry about this one," he said with an air of overconfidence. It was strange, considering our role in the process. Sales engineers ensure the feasibility of what the sales team promises. But this time, we were sidelined. The manager wanted to handle it without our meddling. Over the next few weeks, the office was abuzz with updates. The manager and his team were constantly in meetings with the bank. They seemed overly confident, which only added to my unease. Then, the big news came. They had closed the deal, a massive contract, all without the input of a single sales engineer. The office erupted in celebrations. The manager was the center of all the praise. Everyone was impressed by his accomplishment. Sitting at my desk, I felt a mix of happiness for the company and a sense of foreboding. Big deals like this are complex and usually require in-depth technical knowledge. About a month after that deal with the bank, I was at my desk early one morning. It was a regular day, just me and my coffee, going through emails. That's when my phone rang. It was the sales manager. After his last call to Gloat, I didn't expect to hear from him soon. But there he was, calling me. I picked up, and he sounded different. He was all rushed and sounded worried. "We've got a problem with the bank deal," he said right away. No small talk, nothing. He seemed really stressed out. "What's the problem?" I asked. I hadn't been part of that deal, so I had no idea what could have gone wrong. He said something about the technical side of things. The bank was unhappy because the solutions we sold them didn't work together. He was talking fast, and I could tell he didn't really understand what the issue was. I kept my cool and asked, "What do you need from me?" He hesitated for a second, then asked if I could join a call with the bank. They needed someone to sort out the mess. I agreed, more out of curiosity. I wanted to see how bad it was. He sent me the details of the deal, and I looked them over before the call. It was clear from the get-go. The products they sold to the bank didn't match up. It was a big mistake. We had the call later that afternoon. The guy from the bank's IT department was on the line, and he was not happy. They'd spent a lot of money on something that wasn't working. I mostly listened to what they had to say. By the end of the call, I knew I had to go there and see the situation for myself. We set up a meeting for the next day. That evening, I thought about the whole thing. The manager had tried to show off by cutting us out, and now here he was, needing my help. It wasn't a good feeling. It felt more like cleaning up someone else's mess. So, the next morning, I went to the bank. They took me up to a meeting room. There were a lot of important-looking people from the bank there, and my manager was there too. He didn't look too happy. As soon as I looked at the papers on the table, I saw the problem. The manager had sold the bank a bunch of stuff that didn't work well together. It was like he sold them a bunch of parts that were meant for different machines. The bank's people were upset because they had spent a lot of money and now had things they couldn't use properly. During the meeting, I listened to the bank people talking about how this messed up their work. My manager tried to say some things, but it was pretty obvious he had made a mistake. I thought maybe the bank could switch one of the things they bought for something else that would work better. I said this, just throwing the idea out there. The people from the bank seemed to think it was a good idea, but my manager didn't like that I said anything. I could tell because he gave me a look that said I shouldn't have spoken. I knew I wasn't supposed to talk about things like that, but I wanted to help the bank fix the problem. After the meeting, we left the building, and the whole way back, my manager was on the phone, probably complaining about me. The moment I walked into my sales manager's office, he started. He didn't waste time on greetings. He jumped straight into accusing me of stepping out of line at the meeting. According to him, I had no right to suggest anything about pricing. That was the sales rep's job, he said. He didn't care that I was just trying to fix the mess they made. To him, it was all about following protocol, no matter how flawed it was. My own manager, sitting across from him, just nodded along. I could tell he wasn't on my side. He never really was. It was always about playing it safe with him, never rocking the boat. He was more concerned about keeping his job than doing what was right. The sales manager kept going on. He was loud, almost yelling. It felt like he was trying to intimidate me, to make me feel small and in the wrong. That's when I had enough. I couldn't take it anymore. This whole situation was ridiculous. We were supposed to be a team, working together to solve problems, not point fingers and play blame games. But there I was, getting scolded for trying to help. I stood up, and I looked them both in the eyes, one after the other. Then I said it, clear and firm. I quit. I didn't shout. I didn't need to. My words were enough. The shock on their faces was almost satisfying. But I didn't stick around to enjoy it. I left the room without another word, feeling a mix of anger and relief. It was over. I was done with this nonsense. As soon as I got home, I opened my laptop and started typing. I wrote everything down, every detail about what happened at the bank, in the meeting, everything. It was a long email, sent straight to HR. I laid it all out, my side of the story, defending my actions. I knew it probably wouldn't change anything. But I had to say it, had to make sure my voice was heard, even if it was for the last time at that company. A few months after I left the company, I was sitting in my new office when my phone rang. It was an old colleague from the company. He sounded uneasy as he told me about a lawsuit against the company by the bank. I was surprised, I hadn't heard anything about it. The next day, I got a call from the legal team representing the bank. They asked if I could meet them to discuss the deal that had gone wrong. At first, I hesitated. I preferred to stay out of the courtroom. But thinking about how everything had happened at my old job, I felt like I should do it. I met with the bank's lawyers in a small office. They asked me a lot of questions about the deal, the products, and the meetings I had been in. I explained everything as best as I could remember. I even showed them the letter I sent to HR, explaining the mistakes and problems with the deal. The lawyers seemed really interested in what I had to say, especially after reading the letter. I realized my information was pretty important for their case. It felt kind of good to tell my side of the story, to let someone know what really happened. I ended up meeting with the lawyers a few more times. Each time, I went over the details of what had happened at the company. I had left that job hoping to leave everything behind, but here I was, talking about it again. It wasn't just about getting back at the company or the managers anymore. It was about being honest and doing the right thing. I didn't expect to be in this position, but I knew I had to help set things straight. And maybe, in some way, it was helping me move on from that whole mess at my old job. I spent my evenings browsing online, particularly on Yahoo stock message boards. It became a kind of hobby, sharing opinions on various stocks, including the one belonging to my former employer. I never thought much of it at first. It was just a way to vent, you know? I'd type away, sometimes sharing insights about the company's inner workings, things I knew from my time there. Nothing confidential, just general observations. But these posts seemed to catch people's attention. One evening, I got a call from an old colleague. He was still with the company and shared some big news. A deal we had worked on together, a massive one that had been a year in the making, had just fallen through. It was a shocker. The company had placed all its bets on this deal, and now it was gone. That night, I couldn't resist. I logged onto the message board and typed out a post about the deal's collapse. I didn't think much of it. It was just another post among thousands. But the next day, the company's stock took a hit. It dropped $13. That's when it hit me. My post might have had something to do with it. I didn't know how to feel. There was a strange mix of guilt and, I'll admit, a bit of satisfaction. But things didn't stop there. About 6 weeks after the stock crash, I was served with a lawsuit. The company had traced my online persona back to me and decided to sue me for the post that crashed their stock. I couldn't believe it. They were using SLAPP laws to come after me, an ex-employee just speaking his mind on the internet. The day before my scheduled deposition in the bank versus company lawsuit, I received the legal papers. It was a jumble of accusations and legal jargon. I showed up at the deposition, still reeling from the shock of being sued. The deposition started, and I could feel the tension in the room, but I didn't get far into my testimony. I interrupted with, "I'm sorry, I can't continue this deposition." The lawyers looked confused. "I was served with a lawsuit from your company last night," I explained. "I don't think it's appropriate for me to testify under these circumstances." The room went silent for a moment. The lawyers exchanged looks, clearly not expecting this. It was as if they didn't know whether to be angry or worried. One of them tried to argue, but I was firm. I wasn't going to give them anything more. I stood up, gathered my things, and left the room. It was clear the company had no idea that their legal team going after the internet troll was actually targeting the same person involved in a major lawsuit against them. After months of legal back and forth, the lawsuit between the bank and my former company finally came to an end. I didn't know all the details about the settlement, but from what I heard, it cost them quite a bit. This wasn't surprising given the situation they had put themselves in by selling the wrong solutions to the bank. In the company, the sales manager, the guy who tried to cut out the sales engineers and started this whole mess, was fired. It wasn't just him. His boss and the sales rep involved in the messed up deal were also let go. I thought about how all of this could have been avoided if they had just listened to their team from the start. Word about their firing got around fast. Some people I used to work with told me about it. I didn't feel happy about it, but I did feel like what happened was justified. I had tried to warn them in the letter I sent to HR, but it seemed like no one read it until everything fell apart. After all this happened, I heard that the company began to take the advice of their sales engineers more seriously. They changed how they handled deals. It was a tough way for them to learn their lesson, but it looked like they were finally making some good changes. For me, that whole situation was over. I had moved on to another job and was focusing on new things. But what happened back then taught me a lot. I learned how important it is to stand up for what you believe is right and to speak up, even when it's difficult.